Admiral Zexathara of the Dominion fleet had commanded 1,000 worlds before encountering the small blue planet in the outer rim. Her crystalline exoskeleton gleamed under the bridge lights as she reviewed the initial reports. The inhabitants called themselves humans, a species that had barely achieved interstellar travel, wielding primitive fusion drives and chemical rockets. Perfect candidates for the Dominion's labor force. "Begin the subjugation protocol," she had ordered 3 Earth years ago, her mandibles clicking with satisfaction. Standard procedure: orbital bombardment of major cities followed by ground deployment. These mammals should surrender within solar cycles. How wrong she had been. Now Zexathara stood in the pristine corridors of Harmony Station, humanity's newest diplomatic hub orbiting Jupiter. Her once proud battle armor had been replaced with ceremonial robes bearing the insignia of a petitioner. Around her, representatives from dozens of species waited in similar attire, former enemies now seeking membership in the Terran Alliance. Captain Sarah Chen, humanity's chief diplomatic liaison, approached with measured steps. Her dark hair was streaked with premature gray, earned during the 3-year conflict that had redefined galactic politics. Despite her modest height compared to most alien species, she commanded the room's attention. "Admiral Zexathara," Chen said, her voice carrying neither malice nor warmth. "The Alliance Council will see you now." As they walked toward the council chambers, Zexathara reflected on how spectacularly the Dominion's simple conquest had unraveled. The initial orbital strikes had targeted humanity's major military installations and population centers. New York, Beijing, Moscow, London, all had burned under plasma bombardment. By every tactical calculation, the humans should have surrendered immediately. Instead, they had done something unprecedented in the Dominion's 1,000-year expansion. They had adapted. Within weeks, human survivors had begun reverse engineering Dominion technology from crashed vessels. Their scientists, driven by desperation and fury, had achieved breakthrough after breakthrough. What should have taken decades of study was accomplished in months. The humans possessed something the Dominion had never encountered, an almost supernatural ability to learn, adapt, and innovate under pressure. The first sign of trouble came when human resistance fighters began using modified Dominion weapons against their own creators. The second was when human engineers started improving upon those weapons. By the 3rd month, human forces were fielding energy weapons that outperformed Dominion standard-issue equipment. But it was humanity's philosophy of warfare that truly caught the galaxy off guard. Where the Dominion relied on overwhelming force and technological superiority, humans had introduced concepts of asymmetric warfare, psychological operations, and what they called guerrilla tactics. They had turned their own devastated cities into killing fields, using the rubble as cover while they picked apart Dominion ground forces. "You fought differently than any species we'd encountered," Zexathara admitted as they passed a memorial wall displaying the names of fallen human defenders. "Most civilizations surrender when faced with superior force. You became more dangerous when cornered." Chen paused at the memorial, her fingers tracing over a particular name. "We learned something about ourselves during those dark months. Humans don't just fight to win. We fight to ensure our enemies never threaten anyone again." The turning point had come during the Battle of Luna. The Dominion had expected to easily overwhelm the human lunar colonies, but instead found themselves facing a coordinated defense that utilized every piece of debris, every crater, and every abandoned mining tunnel. Human forces had transformed the moon into a fortress, and when the Dominion fleet finally retreated, they left behind nearly half their vessels. More shocking still was what happened next. Instead of celebrating their victory, the humans had immediately begun studying the captured ships and interrogating survivors, not for intelligence about military capabilities, but to understand Dominion society, culture, and governance. They had approached their enemies not as conquerors seeking revenge, but as anthropologists seeking understanding. Within 6 months, human diplomatic envoys had made contact with worlds on the Dominion's periphery. They hadn't come with threats or demands for tribute, but with offers of mutual defense and technological exchange. Species that had spent centuries under Dominion rule suddenly found themselves presented with an alternative, an alliance based on voluntary cooperation rather than forced submission. The Terran Alliance wasn't built on conquest, Chen explained as they entered the council chambers. It was built on a simple premise that cooperation achieves more than domination. The council chamber was a marvel of multi-species engineering. The hegemony's atmospheric processors maintained perfect environmental conditions for dozens of different biological requirements simultaneously. Aquatic depth dwellers communicated through bioluminescent displays, while avian soarhawks utilized complex pheromone clouds, all technologies that had been freely shared and adapted through alliance cooperation. At the chamber's center sat the Alliance Council, 12 representatives from founding member species, with humanity holding just one seat among many. This too had surprised the galaxy. The species that had defeated the Dominion could have claimed hegemony by right of conquest, but instead had insisted on equal representation. Admiral Zexithera, spoke Counselor Chen formally now. You petition for Dominion membership in the Terran Alliance. Please state your case. Zexithera's vocal apparatus hummed with what her species considered deep respect. Honored counselors, the Dominion recognizes its past crimes against humanity and our Alliance members. We have dismantled our slave labor systems and granted independence to our tributary worlds. We seek not forgiveness, but the opportunity to contribute to something greater than conquest. And what can the Dominion offer the Alliance? Asked Counselor Veshitar of the liberated Krillian hegemony, her crystalline form pulsing with skeptical light patterns. Our manufacturing capabilities, our knowledge of distant regions, and our commitment to redemption, Zexithera replied. But most importantly, we offer our experience as a cautionary tale. We can help identify and prevent other expansionist regimes from threatening Alliance worlds. The Council deliberated while Zexithera waited. She watched human staffers move efficiently through the chamber, coordinating between species that had once been mortal enemies. The humans had done more than defeat the Dominion. They had created a new model for galactic civilization. Finally, Counselor Chen spoke. The Terran Alliance accepts the Dominion's petition for probationary membership. You will undergo a 2-year integration period during which your commitment to Alliance principles will be evaluated. As the council session concluded, Zexithara approached Chen privately. I must ask, how did you know this would work? Building an alliance from former enemies? Chen smiled, the first genuine warmth she had shown. Because we learned something during the war. The strongest alliances aren't built on shared victory, they're built on shared values. Fear might create temporary submission, but only mutual respect creates lasting cooperation. Looking out at the stars through the station's great viewing portal, Zexithara saw dozens of ships from different worlds working together on joint projects. The same hands that had once fired upon each other now labored side by side, building something unprecedented in galactic history. A civilization based not on the dominance of one species, but on the cooperation of many. Humanity had done more than survive attempted enslavement. They had transformed their would-be masters into willing partners in a grander vision of what galactic civilization could become. The species that had once sought to chain humanity now begged to join their alliance, not because they feared human weapons, but because they believed in human ideals. The greatest victory wasn't defeating their enemies. It was turning those enemies into friends.